These guys at the GCRN would make great Green Lantern Corps members. Seriously. Who are these guys?
This is Brian T. Stevenson, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
By the power of Grayskull, I command the Jawbridge. Open!
Hello and welcome to Geekcast Radio. I am one of your hosts, Steve, Joe, and Mike, and joining me is Steve Megatron. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Today we welcome a monkey in a barrel of voice acting laughs who is spying on the entire world, Mr. Brian T. Stevenson. Hello, Brian. How are you?
That's clever. I like that.
I try.
I'm good. I'm doing good. Happy Monday.
Yeah. It's Monday.
It is Monday. Yeah. I got part of it right.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, Brian is the co-owner, right?
I am one half of Spy Monkey Creations, yes.
Yes, he's one half of Spy Monkey Creations. He just recently got his very first voiceover gig, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He is one of the guest stars on VO Buzz Weekly. He has been on Talkin' Tunes with his good personal friend Rob Paulson. What else have you been doing? What was that first gig you got?
I can't really talk about it right now. That's the bummer about a lot of it that I'm doing right now, because I've been working the voiceover thing for probably about 3 or 4 years now, and it's a tough road to hoe, and I'm just now starting to work, and I'm starting to work pretty regularly. Unfortunately, I can't start talking about a lot of the stuff yet because I'm under NDAs.
They're all games, aren't they?
Yeah. So far, most everything's been games. Have done a little bit of animation stuff, but I will say that it is a sequel to a pretty hot franchise, so it should be a lot of fun. One actor told me he was like, "Hey, what'd you work on?" And I told him, and he goes, "Everybody's been working on that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you know what? This is my first paying gig, dude." So, it's
5 or throw 4.
Yeah. The check cleared, so all I can say is I'm just waiting for it. I actually went to GameStop today to see if it was available for pre-order, and they're like, "Oh no, not yet." I'm like, okay.
Nice.
I'll wait because I know I'm not going to get a copy. I'm actually going to have to go buy it. So,
yeah. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up a poor black child. Oh wait, no, that's the jerk. Never mind.
Nice.
When did Kevin Michael Richardson show up?
I grew up in a very small town in southern Arizona. I was born in a border town. I was born in Douglas, Arizona, in the year of 1974. And let's see, I grew up in a farming community. One grandfather owned a farm. One grandfather owned a ranch in southern Arizona. Lived there most of my life. I did a couple of stints in Oklahoma City with my mom. Lived with my grandparents most of my life. And I've always been, we were latchkey kids when we lived with our mom in Oklahoma. And it was in the 80s, it was from 1982 until probably 87. So it was, I was a latchkey kid during the height of G.I. Joe and He-Man and Transformers and all of the, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, Mask, all of those 80s Centurions. I could go on and on and on. But during that time, we were come home, lock the door. We had codes for the phone to ring when my mom would call. Don't answer the phone unless it was the code ring. I think it was like something like the phone rings twice, then she would hang up and call back, and then that's when we would answer the phone, and she would check in on us. Had a series of stepfathers. I think mom's been married 7 times now. So, we never really had a solid male figure in my life. So I picked He-Man and Optimus Prime and Superman and, all of those 80s icons, that, we're all so nostalgic about now. Those guys raised me. They were my surrogate fathers and uncles, and and I kind of always found refuge found refuge in those worlds. So that's kind of what we lived in Oklahoma from I believe we moved out there when I was in the third grade, and we moved back to I moved back to my grandparents' house when I was in the seventh grade. So, and then I lived in Arizona until I graduated high school and went to college, and went back to Oklahoma and lived there for about 4 years before I finally moved out to Los Angeles in 1999.
Huh. Interesting. So what made you want to be a toy designer? How did that come about?
The toy designing thing I kind of fell into both times I got into it. Back when I was in college, I was my major in college was graphic design, advertising, and graphic design. And well, that wasn't my major. That was my fallback job. My major was theater and dramatic arts, theater and cinematic arts. So I was a drama major, which pretty much meant I could stand on the side of the road with a cardboard sign or get a job as a teacher. So
I don't know, that cardboard sign stuff worked out for that one guy for a while.
Yeah, it's pretty lucrative for some people. But yeah, I started way back in the day. It was probably about 90. Let's see, I graduated high school in the summer of 92, and in the spring of 93, I started working freelance, doing a lot of package art and control art and turnarounds and stuff for Kenner. And I worked on a few things. I worked on like the Superman line, that Man of Steel line that they had, the 5-point of articulation Man of Steel line that they had. I worked on some of that. I worked on some of the stuff for Batman. Which one was the? Let's see, the third one.
92, 93. Yeah, it was about
Forever.
the second one.
Yeah, Batman Forever. I did a lot of the work on that. A lot of the card art for the characters, for those action figures. I did a lot of that. But I did that for quite a while, and then after Tonka had acquired Kenner, and then Hasbro acquired Tonka, and switched everything except Tonka. All the Kenner stuff was brought underneath the Hasbro banner. They kind of cut a swath through all the freelancers and quit using us. And at that point, I had moved away from Arizona back to Oklahoma, and I had found a full-time job working as a graphic designer for a t-shirt screen printing company. So that was kind of my first stint in the toy world. And then when I moved to Los Angeles in '99, I had kind of been, that was when the internet first started kind of coming about, and there were a lot of toy boards and stuff like that. I mean, there weren't a lot of toy boards. There were actually quite a few. I think like Raving Toy Maniac and a couple others had sprouted up. And I was a member on one of those, and started chatting with different. And I was always a customizer, because when you work in the toy industry, actually that's how a lot of people start out, is they start out as customizers. And I was a toy customizer, action figure customizer, and I would take pictures of my stuff and post them on some of the forums now and again. And that's how I met Jeremy Sung, who's the other half of Spy Monkey, and his handle was Spy Magician. And him and I met through another mutual friend, and we got to know each other online for a good year or two until we finally met at Comic-Con, probably about I'd say 7 or 8 years ago. And then that's kind of once we met, and we would all hang out, and we'd have custom days where we'd all get together at somebody's house with our big bins of custom figures and paints and Sculpey and everything, and we'd sit and bash together action figures and stuff like that. And then it would just kind of evolved into us doing our own thing, making our own stuff. And that's kind of how Spy Monkey was born, was just a bunch of customizers getting together and making stuff that that we liked. And we would post it on the internet. And as soon as we posted it on the internet, people would start wanting it. So we learned how to produce it and make more, casting. Jeremy learned how to cast. And And we just started casting and cleaning resin parts and making weapons for 6 and 7 inch action figures, and we were making stuff for He-Man and Transformers, just whatever they would work with. So, and that's kind of the genesis of Spy Monkey.
Now, when you say you make weapons for the characters, you mean that you all have a deal with Hasbro or Mattel?
Oh no, we're pretty much just like a third party. We would make They were all customized, stuff we wanted to see the characters have, and we would.
Okay.
We never actually advertised like this is a sword for He-Man or this is a shield for.
Right, but you can tell by the look of it. I've seen a lot of the stuff. I'm actually on the site now, and I've seen a lot of the weapon stuff. I've seen Pixel Dan, that jerk, review a lot of the good stuff that you guys do. That's for his Facebook comment. You all do some amazing work.
Thank you.
I'm looking at before Steve takes over for voiceover stuff. I'm looking at the Weapons of Monka set. How are those 6 and 7 inches, or are those 5-inch figures? Because they look pretty small.
The Weaponeers of Monka, yes, they are. They're about 4 inches tall.
Okay,
they're not 6 and 7 inches. Mainly that was because of tooling costs are not cheap anymore. They've never been cheap, but here in recent years, the U.S. dollar has just taken a nosedive in the foreign market, and this is the real boring business kind of stuff, but in order for us to make them, we had to make them pretty small, and we used the Glio system, which is a system of pegs and holes that kind of hold together, and they all snap apart and are all reconfigurable. And we use that on all of our product now. After we graduated from doing hand cast resin and went into production, we exclusively use the Glio system on everything. And you can only get so big with that before it doesn't really work anymore. And 3 3/4 to 4 inch is about as tall as you want to go with that stuff. And we kind of saw a lot of the collecting trends going that way. Everything's shrinking down. I mean, even Transformers are starting to shrink down. The new deluxe Transformers are, half the size of what a deluxe used to be. I got my hands on the new Trail Cutter the other day, and I was just kind of like, oh.
It seems like the quality has gone down on them too, on the Transformers.
Yeah, I think it's they're really pushing the tolerances of what they can get away with wall thickness on the plastics now, just because of how in order to stay competitive, and keep competitive prices, they've got to, because of the way that the factories and the materials and everything just keeps rising. In labor, labor costs, material costs, everything like that. It's really kind of sad. It's kind of hard to be a toy maker right now, unless you're just loaded. And even the larger corporations are, they're really cutting back on what they're willing to spend on new toy lines, and even existing ones that are proven. I'm really surprised that the Star Wars Black Series that they're doing even had any kind of legs whatsoever. But it's
crazy. I'm looking at the Monka set, and the only thing I can think of with the leader and the villain is he's got an Optimus Prime looking head.
Yeah.
And the villain, the gray and red villain, Paladar, he's got.
He's not a villain.
He's not?
No. Paladar is.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Paladar is he's the commander of the Gyro forces. We have good guys and bad guys. We have the Gyro and the Vilhane in that first wave of figures, which is probably what you're looking at on the site. The Gyro, who are the good guys, are comprised of Imperious Rex, and he usually just goes by Imperious. And he's the red guy that looks like looks a little bit.
His head, his ears do.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of Optimus Prime, hot rod kind of. There's several little homages thrown into these guys. One of my favorite toys as a kid and one of my favorite cartoons was GoBots, and so Paladar's got a real kind of copter look to him. And if you look at Umbrius, who's the leader of the bad guys, he's got a real kind of Skeletor's face with Megatron's helmet kind of thing going.
It's really cool though.
And it is really kind of what we did was we got to thinking, you go on any of these fan sites, you go on any of the GI Joe or He-Man or Transformers fan sites, and it's really hard for new content to be created with these characters that people have so much nostalgia for, because one misstep and the fandom just goes insane that you're ruining the canon. I mean, they just go nuts. So we were like, well, rather than try to license, some other toy line or something that people have a lot of nostalgia for, we realized that the reason why a lot of us, guys in our mid to late 30s that are all pushing 40 are still buying these action figures and these toys is because of the nostalgia we have for them from our youth. And we really are kind of the nostalgia generation. So we decided that if we were going to design an action figure line, we wanted to design something that would take elements and bits of that nostalgia and really kind of hodgepodge them together. When we debuted at PowerCon last year in September, people would walk by the table and look at the figures, and there'd be, oh, that reminds me of GoBots, or that reminds me of Transformers, or that reminds me of Voltron, or that reminds me of He-Man, or that reminds me, they would, Thundercats. I mean, there were people, the Mighty Orbots, the Bionic Six. It's like people. There was something that reminded people of Battle Beasts. There's all kinds of stuff. It's like we heard everything. And that's kind of when we knew it's like, okay, well, everybody gets what we tried to do here. And with that, since they're all brand new characters, we get to write the story and we get to come up with the world, and it's fresh and it's new. And it's, it's like, it's kind of exciting for people. We get stuff all the time, and little kids love our stuff. Little kids just go nuts over it. We hear stuff all the time from parents that are like, oh yeah, we love the stories. We read them to our kid as bedtime stories and can't wait for the next one. And when are the next figures coming out? And we just had our very first booth at Comic-Con in San Diego that we shared with October Toys last month, and did amazing. We debuted a couple of fun homage figures to some other 80s properties, just taking our existing figures and just repainting them. And putting them in casting them in different plastic and repainting. We cast them like a flesh colored plastic, and we did one that was kind of like the muscle figures. He was all just this big pink plastic flesh, looking dude. And then the other one we kind of we paid tribute to Mike Grell's Warlord figure from the DC Comics, and it's been so much fun. It's like we absolutely love this product, and it's the response to it's been more than what we could have imagined.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing what you all are creating out there, and that's great that you guys had a good showing at Comic-Con, because once you go Comic-Con, you can't go back.
No, well, and that was the thing too. It's Comic-Con has gotten so expensive too that you can't really go to Comic-Con and expect to make the amount of money that you spend on the booth back, really. It's more for the exposure, and we got some pretty good exposure, and some pretty neat things are starting to happen. Not anything I can really talk about, but some really neat things are starting to happen. We caught the eye of some pretty important people.
Well,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
So, what made you want to get into, or what even sparked you to get into the voiceover business?
It's kind of the same thing that got me into the toys. I grew up as a child of the 80s. I grew up, like I said, we were latchkey kids, and I became more familiar with these characters than I did some of my own family members. It's like I was always in front of the TV, and it didn't take me long to realize that, hey, Cobra Commander and Starscream are the same dude. And there were other things too. There were a lot of them that I started picking up on them, and eventually, and I think the first person I ever really picked up on was Rob Paulson. I think he's the first person I picked out as being, okay, that's the same guy. That's the same guy that's doing that voice, that's doing that voice, that's doing that voice. And I realized there are people doing this. There are actually, it's like, these aren't little dudes living in the box. These are guys, just going to a job every day, and not everybody is Mel Blanc. Back when I was, little, it was either Mel Blanc or Dawes Butler. Those guys were the voice guys. And if there was a girl, it was usually June Foray. The cartoons that in my early youth that I grew up watching, there were 3 people doing all those voices. And so it's like, okay, well, that's their job. No one else can do that. And then when the 80s rolled around and there was this big, huge animation boom, with Filmation and Sunbow and all these other, companies putting stuff out, it dawned on me at a pretty early age that, wow, there's guys doing this for a living. And I had done some stuff. I was in a lot of plays and stuff like that when I was a kid. But never really had any kind of direction or guidance in it. And then when I got into high school, I went to a play, and I think it was The Diary of Anne Frank of all plays. Not the most cheerful thing to watch.
No, not at all.
No. But the girl that played Anne Frank, I got a huge crush on her, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to join drama because I want to meet that girl. I was a freshman. She was a senior. So, what shot did I have? But what the heck, I was a cocky little bastard. So I joined, the next semester rolled around and I joined the drama department. I took the drama class and and the first time I got on stage, I think we were doing, we did the Christmas Carol, and I played Bob Cratchit, and I got up on stage and I don't even remember how it happened, but I got people in the audience just rolling. And I don't know if it, like I said, I can't remember what it was I was doing. But you hear that first guffaw out in the audience, and I was just, okay, I'm hooked. What girl? That was just kind of, and I was hooked. And my entire high school career, I mean, we wound up having one of the most competitive theater departments in any small town high school in Arizona. We were constantly, by the time I was a senior, we were all winning national awards and getting scholarships, and I wound up getting a scholarship. Went to college, majored in theater, and I did a stint with some improv troops, with some professional theater companies, a couple in Arizona, one in Oklahoma, and in '99, I was like, okay, it's time for me to move out to Los Angeles. And the guy at the local comic book store said, hey, I know this other guy who's local that's about to move to LA. Why don't you get in touch with him? And so, he exchanged phone numbers, and I called him, and he's like, yeah, I'm moving out. Why don't you come crash on my couch till you can find a place? So I, drove out here, crashed on the dude's couch, looked for an apartment, looked for a job, found both, moved out to LA full time. I've been out here ever since. And I actually pursued on-camera live because, again, you kind of were always given this thing. It's like, well, there's a very small handful of people that do voiceover, and it's the hardest thing in the world to break into. The only way to get in is if somebody dies and you can do what they did. But likely when that person dies, there's 10 other people already doing it that can just step up and do what he's doing. And so that was kind of it was kind of off-putting. You didn't really have there was nothing to build your confidence into getting into it. And there was no internet, there really was nothing to where they were, it's like everything was in complete anonymity. And I tried out the on-camera acting for a while, and I was working as a PA in a lot of animation. So I started getting to know all of the animation actors. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever ran into Rob Paulson, I scared the crap out of him because he thought he was getting mugged. He was walking out.
You got to tell that story.
Oh yeah. It was like, and it's one of those things, it's like, and I told him the day I met him, I said, you won't ever remember this, but I'll never forget it, because he was so cool to me. He was so nice. And the guy that you hear, that's the real dude, man. He's not put on. He is not put on. He's not, he is the most genuine and one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met in my entire life. And it's like I had kind of, I'd gone to all of the voiceover panels at Comic-Con, and I'd sat in the back of the room and I'd watched them all, and and Mark Evanier comes in and mediates all of them, and he's a nice guy, and I adore him, but he's also got this kind of thing where he tells the audience, yeah, don't even bother. These guys are top of their game. These guys are the elite. You'll never be this. So unless you've got, 10 years to and the drive and the desire, you won't get here. So it's kind of discouraging when you hear people say that all the time. So I never really pursued it. Well, Rob's walking out of the Academy building, the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences building, and I'm walking in because I was working. The animation show that I was working on was officing there, and I'm walking in, and this is before, like I said, this was, they had complete anonymity at this point. Nobody knew who they were, and he walks out of the building, and I'm like, oh my God, you're Rob Paulson, and he's like, yeah. I was like, you're Yakko, you're Pinky, you're Raphael, it's like, and I'm just like, I was like, you're Snow Job, it's like I'm losing my mind, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, I told him, I said, you are my favorite actor, you are one of my absolute. I was like, you raised me. I said, you have been in my life since the Smurfs, since as long as I can remember, and it just, and he was touched, and we sat there and we talked for about 20 minutes. And I said, how do I get into? And he says, act. He says, have you ever done any acting? And I said, yeah, that's why I'm here, is I'm an actor. And he's like, well, keep it up, buddy. And that was it, except for seeing him at Comic-Con and passing like once a year. I kind of, I was always interested in it, but never really pursued it. And then in my day job and what I do, to actually pay the rent, I got to know a lot of the voice actors, and I got to know guys like Tom Kenny, and I got to know guys like Billy West and Jess Harnell and all those guys. And so much so that, go hang out and have a beer and go bowling with Tom Kenny now and again. And
nice.
He was
bowling with SpongeBob.
Yeah, and in joking back and forth and riffing off of one another and everything. Probably about 4 years ago, he was like, man, why aren't you getting paid to do this? He said, you really need to get, he said, you ought to, try it out. I'm like, well, how do I go about it? And he goes, man, I don't know, because my into it was so weird, because he started as a stand-up and doing all kinds of stuff. So his into it was a little unorthodox from what the actual, point A to point B was. But what I've learned is that point A to point B in this business is a very squiggly line, and no one's is the same. And so Comic-Con rolled around again, and I had gotten my demo together, put all that together. I had started taking a few classes, and my wife actually had a huge deal, a huge, holds most of the responsibility for getting me into this, because she said, well, for Christmas, she says, I'm going to get you your first voiceover class. So she got me my first voiceover class. She had me do the research, find one that I thought I could learn from, and I went and did it. And my first time in the booth, the teacher was like, "Are you sure you've never done this before?" And so that was kind of like, oh well, yeah, I'm an actor. It's not, this is just acting to me. It's like the funny voices and that all kind of stuff. That comes later, but it's like this is all just acting. And so then I hit up Rob again at Comic-Con that year, and he had just started doing his podcast and just started doing his private coaching. And I said, I would love to do some private coaching with you. I just, I'm about a year in and would really like to get together with you sometime. And he's like, oh yeah, sure. Well, schedules being what they are, we couldn't get together until almost December. And, it's like, this was at Comic-Con that we spoke first. So in December, we finally got together, and in our talking and everything, he said, "Would you come and be a guest on my podcast?" He said, because you're doing what a lot of people are always asking me about. He says, I don't know how to get into it today. Right. It's a different beast than it was when he did it 30 years ago. And he's like, so he's like, I don't know how. And he's like, so would you kind of be, he said, would you kind of come on and help some people out? And in all of that, I've become this strange, unofficial ambassador to the up and coming voice actor. To where, I've been on Rob's podcast, I've been on VO Buzz Weekly, and there's a few other podcasts that I've done talking about the voiceover and stuff and the voice acting and breaking in to animation and video games and stuff. And I've just kind of become this ambassador, is about the only word I can think of for it, my reasoning for doing it is I I can't think of doing anything else. It's like whenever I get inside the booth, and I've always had day jobs. I've always worked 1 or 2 jobs. It's like I do the toy stuff, and that's fun, and I'm passionate about that, and it's really important to me. But when I get into the voice booth, that's where the universe is telling me I need to be. It's like I get in that booth, and it's just like when I proposed to my wife. It's like I get the same feeling. It's like I'm supposed to be here, and that's I grew up, and I'm working now with the people that I grew up admiring. It's a constant like pinch myself kind of scenario every time I walk into a room, and I'm just like, wow, I'm working with these dudes today. It's like these are the guys that I used to sit after school every day and that taught me all my lessons. They taught me how to grow up, and they taught me how to how to do this and how to do that, and they taught me morals, and they taught me just all kinds of stuff. So it's a surreal blessing, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it.
We know you're not going to, or you can't reveal any of the current stuff, but like, can you reveal anyone that you've worked with, actually in a session?
I've worked with, let's see here. Most recently, I've worked with Mick Wingert, who is the voice of Po in Kung Fu Panda: Legends of Awesomeness. He's a dead-on voice match for Jack Black.
That's awesome.
And him and I became really fast friends. But most recently, I've worked with him. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I wasn't in the booth with them, but I kind of was in passing with Yuri Lowenthal and Steve Bloom and let's see, Stacey Oswald from VO Buzz Weekly.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. I'm trying to think who all else was working on that game that we were all kind of. We were all kind of passing each other in the lobby, as it's like because they had us all come in singly and do records because it was all NPC stuff. And let's see, gosh, I just let's see, Bob Joels, I think, was working on that one. Matt Mercer probably did a little bit of work on it. And I've known Matt, who was Tigra in the latest Thundercats.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've known Matt Mercer for, oh my gosh, probably about 10 years. So it's like him and I kind of come up together a little bit. He obviously struck a lot quicker than I did, but yeah, and it's weird for me because I'm 38 years old. So, it's like, and I'm just now starting to break in, but then I talk to guys like Tom Kenny, and I talk to guys like Steve Bloom, and they're like, oh yeah, man, I was almost 40 before I booked my first real big thing. So it's interesting that I'm kind of just right now at that nice ripe age that they just all of a sudden the work just starts coming in. So
yeah, not everyone can be a 28-year-old, go out to California, and in 3 years become Raphael.
No, not at all. But almost. No.
Yeah, almost.
Almost. I auditioned for that role. I auditioned for.
Oh, did you really?
I auditioned for Raphael, and I got so close. But it happens. It's like, and Sean Astin is phenomenal. I think he's just killing it. I think he's doing such a great job in that role.
That show is so awesome.
Yeah. It's it's like I watch everything. I watch every new cartoon that comes out. If for anything, I watch at least one episode. Very rarely do I get wrapped up in something where I watch every episode, but like Green Lantern and Young Justice and Ninja Turtles and some of the more grown up cartoon stuff. It's like, and that's the thing, is like Ninja Turtles is awesome because I mean it grabs it.
For both.
There's enough in it for all of us guys that grew up just loving the original stuff. And I mean, you can't walk into, at least around here, you can't walk into a Toys R Us or a Target that the pegs just aren't wiped clean of all the Ninja Turtle stuff.
Yeah, just like back in the day. Yeah,
and good luck any of those other cartoons that, I mean, mainly because of Mattel, that has, that have any toys on the shelf. I hate to flick a booger, but I mean, it's the truth. I mean, They I mean, the Green Lantern, that show was so awesome.
I just
And
don't.
none of the retailers, because of the movie, none of the retailers wanted the toys. And
Well,
without the toys, they can't. Without the toys, they can't support the cartoon.
That's one thing about the animation business that I wish was not true.
Yeah,
It's tied into everything else in Hollywood, and if this doesn't succeed, well, if that isn't succeeding, let's take away this perfectly successful cartoon series that everyone like. I just got a couple months ago. I got the both volumes of the Green Lantern animated series score from La La Land Records. The music of that show is just amazing.
Yeah, mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
It's just amazing hearing it without the. I mean, hearing it in the show is great, but hearing it by itself is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't like how Hollywood is treating animation these days on any show, not just specifically Green Lantern or Young Justice, but it's just one of those things where, sadly, if the toys don't sell or if a movie bombs, and then the toy company's like, yeah, we can't even, take a dump truck up to this retailer and just give them the toy.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like,
Well, and
it's so bad.
And on the flip side of that, you get a successful movie, and they decide to make an animated series based on the movie, and the only guys that are working are the guys that can do voice matching, because they have all these celebrities in the movie that won't do the animated series. So then then the trickle down, it's like all of us get a chance, but if we don't sound like and can't do an impression, then we're not going to get the work. So it's weird being on this side of it after being on the fanboy side of it for so long, because I understand the frustration on that side, but then I have to kind of look at the business on this side and go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. It's like that. So it's hard. It's hard to be in a position that I'm in, because there are a few, especially the newer talent, that are grown up geeks, that are grown up fanboys. But most of them aren't, so they don't really understand that side of the whole thing. But being that I was a fanboy first, and grew into it, it's rough to see. It's like we were at Emerald City Comic Con. We had a booth, and we were right around the corner from the local comic book shop in Burbank. They had a booth there too. This was up in Seattle, and Bruce Timm is friends of the owners of that store, and he came and did kind of a ninja sketch bomb thing there, where he just kind of slinked in and sat down at the table unannounced, and was doing sketches and signing stuff for people. Wow. And awesome. So then he wasn't getting mobbed, but people would walk by and go, "Oh, it's Bruce Timm," and scrambling for whatever it is they brought with them to sign. And we were sitting there and hearing him talk about the whole Green Lantern and Young Justice thing, and how the animation, it's really was just because the toy that it's like the toys came either too late, or because the movie didn't do well and all of those Green Lantern toys rotted on the pegs. The retailers were afraid to commit to any of the animated stuff, and and it just, because Mattel will swear up and down they never made toys and they never had anything planned, but I've seen them.
Well, they had the Young Justice line. They canceled the line before they even canceled the show.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that too. I mean, unfortunately, those were some pretty lousy toys. They were great little, standalone figures if you just wanted to display them. But as actual toys, they were lousy toys. They were great action figures. They were great looking figures. They were beautiful. But they were lousy toys, and that's the thing. If you're gonna, it's like you really have to make toys. You can't make some little art piece. That's why I'm surprised JLU lasted as long as it did. But JLU was really kind of that had a fan following. And that was kept alive by all of us grown-ups. That wasn't kept alive by the kids.
No. And they basically marketed the JLU toy line to collectors. Yeah. I mean, anything that's on MattyCollector.com, it's marketed towards collectors. And I will say that one thing that yes, Hasbro does market sometimes towards collectors, but 90% of the time it's for, hey, what can we do for the kids? Like you already said, the deluxes are downsized to the point where, and they even said this year at BotCon and SDCC that the reason is they want to make the, apparently they listen to some of the YouTube reviewers, they want to make the transformation simpler for kids. And when I was a kid, I could transform Megatron gun form, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, Soundwave was the easiest. Soundwave and Blaster, the two easiest Transformers to ever come along with the G1 line.
Oh, and Optimus Prime too. Optimus Prime was
Optimus.
I think they used the transformation thing as a gimmick anyway, just to like as a cop out for they're trying to cut costs.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, well, and honestly, I think that, you know, out of all of the toy companies, Hasbro's really they kind of figured it out. They've got their high end collector lines that they're doing, but then they've dialed back all of the mass retail stuff to 5 points of articulation, you know, simpler sculpts, simpler decos, and everything like that. Because honestly, kids, man, when I was a kid, and the reason, and this is why our toys are the kind of toys they are, and they're not, you know, these high-end, spindly little, you know, I mean, pretty shelf pieces. Because when a kid picks up my toy, I want him to be able to huck that sucker across the street, let it get hit by the bus, and have him pick it up. And, you know, it's no worse for the wear. It might have a couple of paint scratches on it or whatever. Because when I was a kid, that's what that was He-Man. You know, He-Man was like that. G.I. Joe was like that. You know, I think the most careful I had to be with toys were Transformers. But any other toys I had, man, I beat the holy living crap out of those toys playing with them. And I think Hasbro's doing a smart thing by going into their more simplified stuff for retail, because they're being able to bring that price point down, you know, but still offering stuff that's a little higher end for the collectors. You know, it's like, and they've learned that the collectors don't mind paying a little bit of a premium if they get, you know, exactly what they're asking for. So that's, you know, but Transformers is that one line that they haven't really, except for their masterpiece stuff, you know, they haven't really, they haven't really started to do that with Transformers yet. But with all of the other lines, they're really starting to figure that out. And I think you know, I mean, that's kind of, you know, for all of their, you know, I mean, just kind of, you know, facepalm foibles that these big toy companies do. It's neat to kind of see them evolve that way, you know, based on the demands of the marketplace.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just like, I know a lot of these cartoons cost money. You know, you look at Transformers Prime. Yes, that had, between Optimus and Bumblebee, it did have slight movie designs, but that cartoon has nothing to do with the Michael Bay movies whatsoever. And I know it cost the hub an exuberant amount of money, but that show still could have lasted one more season.
Yeah, and I mean, and the hub is owned by Hasbro, so it's,
you
know, that's Hasbro's channel, so you know, Hasbro paid for all that. And yeah, but you know, I also think that, you know, Transformers is this interesting thing where now that they do have movies, you know, where they do have to kind of, they're a slave to that, you know, a little bit with the way they do the toys. And it's interesting to see how, you know, how much, you know, that look for the first little bit seeps over into any animation that they do. And, you know, and just because the Beast Hunters is ending, I don't think that means that Transformers animation is ending. It's like
No, it's not. It just, to me, the way I heard about it was they've got 65 episodes for syndication, and they've ended they're going to finalize the story in the TV movie Predacons Rising, but then next year they're going to start up a new cartoon that might somewhat be a continuation of this one. We don't know yet what it's going to be, but when I first heard about it is they're going to cancel Prime, they're going to start a new cartoon, and then my thought is, oh wait, the next movie's coming up, so let's see. That new cartoon, is that going to get canceled in favor of another movie thing? It's kind of like what you mentioned earlier about Green Lantern, you know, the movie versus the animated series. It's like, because one thing did something, and the other thing gets affected, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, and that's it's sad, and it's hard.
Yeah,
It's sad and it's hard to watch, but I mean, unfortunately, it's a it's a it is a truth and kind of the way the wheels work out here.
Yeah. It's all Holly weird. That's exactly what it is.
Holy weird, yeah.
Oh boy. So what else is coming up for you? I mean, is there anything that you can tell us about anything that you're working on, whether it's Spy Monkey or the voiceover stuff? I mean, I know you said you've signed NDAs and you can't reveal too much, but
for Spy Monkey, we have another drop coming up in the middle of this month. It'll be a glow in the dark colorway. So the plastic that we ran the figures in a glow in the dark plastic. We sold a few of them at San Diego Comic-Con just to kind of tease it a little bit. And then we've got probably about 2 or 3 more drops, 2 or 3 more waves throughout the end of the year that are 1 or 2 figures a piece. And then we have a special figure for PowerCon, kind of like we did for Comic-Con, and then we have a special figure for DesignerCon, which is another convention here in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, I think, in November. And then there's some other stuff going on for Spy Monkey I can't really talk about right now, but some pretty awesome stuff. We like I said, Comic-Con was pretty cool for us as far as exposure and some new things coming down the pipe. But then as far as voice acting goes, I've recently auditioned. I don't, I mean, you never know with this stuff, until you hear about it.
Right.
I've been getting invited to audition for a lot of stuff, which is usually they want to hear they want to hear my take on certain things. Whether or not I actually, wind up as the character I'm auditioning for is something else. I don't really know, but a lot of the times when you get invited to audition for something, they want to hear you just so they can be like, okay, well, when we're ready, we'll call on this guy. That's how I've been booking the video games, actually, is a guy that I met, Chris Borders, who was the director of games like Gears of War and Mass Effect and, a lot of those really big, some Final Fantasy games and stuff like that.
Wow.
He's the one who called me in. And it was off a relationship I started building in back at Comic-Con. And he called me and he said, man, I've been wanting to get you in on something. I'm glad I had this opportunity to call you in, and it's really great to have you here, and we'll get you in on more stuff. And then I audition for stuff for Disney all the time. I actually got an audition today that I'm going in for tomorrow, where I'm playing 3 characters in the audition. Who knows if I'll book it or not. But it's basically 3 characters, all with the same accent, but they want a different voice for all 3 guys.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yeah, I wish. But yeah, it's basically it's having to change and affect my voice for different stuff. And then let's see, what else have I recently done? I worked on the Bible recently. Did like some background ADR for like an audiobook narration kind of dramatization of the Bible. So that was interesting. A lot of screaming and yelling and all just background kind of stuff.
I was going to say, you must be really old if you worked on that thing.
Yeah. Jesus signed my yearbook. Yeah. But
why is Chris Rock popping into my head?
Yeah. Let's see. What else have I been working on? Just did a pilot for Fox. I don't know if it's probably a primetime pilot. Just did that, but then being that it's a pilot, unless the network picks it up, it may never air. No one may ever see it. But that's something I've worked on recently. But yeah, it's starting to come in. There's some pretty regular stuff coming in. So it's just a matter of, and I've had a lot of close calls. Like I said, with there was Ninja Turtles, and I actually got called back into audition for another character. I think they've already revealed who he is. I think at Comic-Con they revealed. Did they reveal who's playing Casey Jones at Comic-Con?
They revealed that Casey's coming. I don't know if they've
revealed who's playing him. Okay.
The voice is I know the voice is out there because I've seen video. I've heard the voice. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is.
I do. But I can't
Find
say
out.
anything. Let's see. Yeah, I was actually in on a record session that he was in on. Rob invited me to come be a guest, and that was a lot of fun. I was there the day that Corey Feldman was there,
nice.
recording his stuff. And I don't know if they've revealed who he is yet or not. I think they have. I don't want to spill the beans though, because like I said,
Oh, come on, give us a
Future
scoop. We
Raph.
need to go viral.
Future Raph. Well, Raphael has a pet.
Oh no!
Slash.
Do not tell me that Corey is the voice of the pet.
Well,
That's
And by his
premeditation.
laughter, I know it's true.
yeah.
Josh Peck is Casey.
There we go. Okay. So they have
it's-
they have revealed it. Yeah, Josh Peck from Drake and Josh, I think is the show that he used. Yeah.
Oh,
The
okay.
funny thing is, Wikipedia says Casey Jones, voiced by Josh Peck, role not yet revealed.
Oh, nice. Good for Wikipedia.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, it's really cool, because that's Casey Jones is a role that I auditioned for, and it's kind of it's kind of a thing too. And it's like you've auditioned for something, and then you walk into the record session to see the guy that actually has the part that you auditioned for. And it's a weird thing in voice acting because, it's like in any other thing, it gets competitive and you're like, but it's not that way in voice acting. It's like all I could do was congratulate the dude, man, because I was just like, wow, man, and because he's killing it. He was doing a great job. And, it's like, I just wasn't right for it, and so you just have to sit around and wait for the one that you are right for, it's like, and be ready to bring it when it comes across your, when they fire the script across your bow, be ready to do it, at the drop of a hat if they call you and say, okay, you're the one we want. So.
yeah.
Because there's times that I'll get a call on a Monday and they'll be like, yep, you're working tomorrow, and it'll be like, what is it? Well, it's a video game. You'll know when you get there. I'll walk in and literally not have the script, nothing, and they'll hand it to me when I walk in and they're like, okay, we got 2-3 hours. Let's knock this out. And I'll have, all these lines. I mean, animation's a little different because it's like you kind of know the character. Like I said, this thing that I'm auditioning for tomorrow is pretty established. It's a kid's show. And so I get to have a little bit more fun with my voice. I get to be a little bit more cartoony, which is a lot of fun. Because everything's so serious and dour now, it's like there's hardly like fun anymore in it, it's like everything's just very, just dark and dreary. So it's nice to get one where it's like, you just get to kind of go in the booth and make a jackass out of yourself, for 4 hours, and then they write you a check.
That's the best kind of pay.
It is.
What are some shows or properties or of games or any of that kind of voiceover stuff that you'd like to be able to try and get into or love to put your chops to?
Well, Turtles. I would love to work on Turtles, and like I said, it's like I've been fired at that thing at least 3 times. Law of averages. Eventually, I'll wind up being in there and being somebody. I really hope. I'd love to play Ace Duck if they ever get around to putting Ace Duck in that show. He was one of my favorite figures as a kid, so I'd love to play that character. Let's see, game wise, I love like big epic RPGs when I'm playing video games. So I'd love to get into a series like that, like a Mass Effect or an Elder Scrolls or something like that, Dragon Age, one of those big sweeping, epic kind of things. Lord of the Rings type stuff, fantasy, sci-fi. I'm not real big into military games and stuff like that. I don't play a lot of those. I auditioned for a ton of them. But to me, that's just that's just a job. It's like going in and doing the journeyman kind of actor thing. I would love to work on a Transformers cartoon at some point. I would love to work on one of the DC movies. Even if it's just a little bit voice, I would love to work on something like that. I would love nothing more in the world than to have Weaponeers of Monka become an animated series. That's something that's a dream of mine, to see my own toys, made into an 80s style cartoon. When they teased with the Thundercats that they were like the Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks and all those others that were kind of in the background in one of those episodes.
That was the hugest tease in the world,
wasn't it? Yeah. And it just
never got paid off because fan died.
Yeah. Well, I mean that was a two-way. See, that's the other thing too. Is like it's the toy company, the network, the production company. It's like there's so many variables into those things. But I would love to play if a Silverhawks cartoon ever got made. I'd love to play Bluegrass. That would be one character that I'd really lobby for to get in on. And then Skylanders. I'd love to work on Skylanders. I play the heck out of those games, and I missed the latest one. The auditions for that. I don't know what happened. I didn't get my agent. Either for some reason didn't get any of the sides for that, or it wasn't on the. It was kind of a kept in the family kind of thing. I don't know what happened with that one, but the newest Skylanders or anything or any iteration after that one, I'd love to work on that game.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So, tell everybody your secrets of kicking in the voice acting door.
Kicking in the voice acting door.
Like, what's your advice for? Because Steve is he's
very enthusiastic in trying to.
Go ahead.
Yes, I am very enthusiastic in studying up and trying to work my way that direction. I know I'm nowhere ready yet, but the world of voiceover and that kind of stuff has always intrigued me, even as a kid.
Yeah. Well, act, community theater, if you've got a local radio station or anything. I mean, doing a podcast is, that's a step in the right direction too, because or doing any kind of anything where you use your voice on a regular basis, because you learn how it works with the microphone. You learn how it sounds when it's recorded. A lot of people they'll record their voice and be like, that doesn't sound anything like me. I don't sound like that. It's like, and they're not real comfortable. It's getting comfortable with your instrument and getting comfortable with your abilities. That's the main thing, and being cool or being good gets you in the door. Being cool keeps you in the room. So having a career at it, I think Tom Kane was just on Rob's podcast last week, and one of the things he said was like, it's like these are, most of the guys that do it for a living and do it on a regular basis are the guys that show up on time, are fun to work with, are easygoing. They're not, a-holes. They're good. They're good, fun people, and and that's what it really boils down to. Is like and one of the things Rob says, it's it's luck meeting opportunity, and when that luck meets that opportunity, if you're ready to bring it, if you've got the talent and you've got the goods, when those two things collide, then you get your foot in the door, then it starts to roll. And one of my things is I'm always in the public eye. If I can't, in one way or the other, whether it's through Spy Monkey or whether it's through my voice acting stuff, social media, I'm always on the social media. And now it's like, I've got people that I'll have agents and casting directors that follow me on Facebook or Twitter or things like that. They'll walk up to me at an event and be like, "Oh, I saw what you posted the other day. Ha ha ha, that was so funny. We'll need to get you in one of these days to work on such and such show." And it's based on a tweet that I did 4 months ago, And so,
That's
and
awesome.
so it is. It's I mean, there's so many factors into it. But as far as when getting yourself ready and getting your instrument ready, it's I mean, if you're doing a podcast, doing any kind of local radio or TV spots, if you can, if you can find where those are done, local commercials. It's like Rob said before. When he was in Detroit and coming up, it's like he'd do commercials for the local sporting goods shop, and stuff like that, just to kind of, build his reel and his resume and everything, So and I did the same thing when I was in high school. I was a DJ at the local radio station, and I worked two different stations. I worked like a rock top 40 station at night, and I worked at the AM country station on the weekends. And that's kind of one of the things where I got started, learning how my voice sounds on a microphone, and how to when you get up closer to the mic and when you back away from the mic, I mean, just how it affects your voice doing different things. So and there's plenty of classes. Where are you located?
Actually, I'm in the Grand Blanc, Michigan area.
Oh,
same place. Rob.
Wow, yeah. So you're right in his neck of the woods, his stomping grounds. There's any kind of anything where you can perform, or if there's an improv group, or like a community theater, anything like that you can get involved in. And even local agents. It's like you could, if you have a reel together or something, you can send that to a local agent, or a regional agent. Especially, the internet day and age where everybody's got, setups, it's so easy to set up a home studio now, where you can record stuff from home, and commercials and promos and stuff like that. Unless it's a video game or animation, I rarely record in a studio.
Nice.
So, I mean, I hope that was a decent answer. I hope that helps you.
Yes.
It's I mean, there's plenty, like I said, locally, when I lived in Oklahoma, it's like I did, anywhere that I worked, I always did, if they did any kind of advertising, I got the owners to let me be the voice of the company, to do that kind of stuff, to do their commercials and their radio spots and stuff like that. So.
Very awesome.
There's lots of stuff to get
yes.
started. And when you do that, when you come out here, when you do make your way to Los Angeles, finally, you've got a little bit of a background that you can use, because you're going to get asked. It's like well, what have you done? Where have you been? Who do you know? That kind of stuff. It's like those are like the first three questions an agent asks you before they sit down to have a meeting. So. It's always good to kind of already have a bunch of stuff in your hip pocket.
Yeah,
Very
that's awesome.
good to know.
Yes. All right. Anything else you want to ask him, Steve?
What is the recent fascination with people making memes of you? I've seen a few of them already.
I don't know. It's been kind of funny. I've lived just from sitting here talking to you guys, just telling you things that I've done in my life. I don't know any different. Those are the things I've done in my life. Here recently, I've had a few friends and acquaintances, and come out of the woodwork and be like, well, we don't believe any of that stuff. Most of them have witnessed the things that have happened. So it's just like I've got this real weird kind of, and a couple of my friends that kind of called BS on the friends that were calling BS on me, were just kind of like, look, man, you were there when it happened. It's like, how can you sit there and say that did not happen to him when you were right there and you witnessed it, So this whole thing of me being, being the young version of the most interesting man in the world has started to float around, because it's like the voice actors. They'll be like, everybody, it's like a new voice actor will come up and they'll be like, my gosh, everybody. It's like, well, I'm just a dude, it's like, I've lived my life, and these people have come in or out of my life one way or the other, it's kind of weird. When I was a kid in high school, Nicolas Cage came through our hometown and they were shooting a movie. and he found out that I had a pretty extensive Superman comic book collection. Nicolas Cage would come over to my house and sit down on my bedroom floor with me and look at my Superman comics with me. You know, I mean, I was a senior in high school, and Nicolas Cage is hanging out at my house. You know, and we've been friends ever since. You know, it's like I've sold him some comics, I've bought some comics from him, and you know, just all kinds of weird stuff. You know, it's like I've led a very, very strange and surreal and interesting life, and the memes, I think, kind of evolved out of people trying to call me out as being full of crap. And so that's how the at least the last one that I saw started out as. I think it was the most interesting man in the world, and he's on top. He's the photo on top going, "I don't always," and it's me down at the bottom going, "Bitch, please."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the latest. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the latest.
There's another one further down that says, "Give that man a cookie."
Oh yeah. I saw that one. I saw that one too. Someone else made that one, like right on the heels of that one. But there's been a few others. There's been a few like Weaponeers of Monka memes pop up that I've noticed, and those are cracking me up. You know, it's like the dude that does the alien thing on the History Channel. He's got the big freaking Babylon 5 haircut with the.
Oh yeah.
And there's a picture of him where he's just kind of like, hey, he's got this look on his face, and he goes, "I don't want to say it was Monkarians, but it was Monkarians," you know. So you know, because that's what, you know, it's like the Weaponeers of Monka. So you know, it's like Cybertronians, Thunderians, you know, Eternians, Monkarians. So anyway, it's like I've noticed quite a few memes popping up lately. You know, it's like, and again, it's like I keep telling everybody, it's like, man, I'm just some dude who's just trying to pay his rent. You know, I can make my car payments. Yeah, it's just but I'm also a very approachable person. You know, I don't know a stranger. You know, I'll talk to anybody, and people were walking by our table at Comic-Con just kind of like, you know, looking at our toys, flipping stuff over, and everybody that walked by. And if I had $1 for every time I said this during Comic-Con, we could have paid for our booth just on this. But everybody that walked by, I said, "Happy Comic-Con." You know, and everybody that was looking at their feet had their bottom lip dragging, their head came up, and they smiled, and they were like, "Yeah, Happy Comic-Con," you know? I mean, that's, you know, and then they would stop, and I'd wind up talking to them for 10 or 15 minutes, you know? And it's just, and they you know, they didn't know what I was selling, what I had there, you know? It's just, I don't know a stranger. I kind of, you know, I engage everybody that I come into contact with. So, and I think that kind of bugs a few people that I know that, you know, aren't like that.
You know,
I think it's a cool trait.
Yeah, I think it's cool as well. It's just, I have this whole thing now where I've lived in Louisville, Kentucky for, God,
He's a
20
recluse.
years. Yeah, I've become a recluse because I hate dealing with people in the real world.
Mike's like, digital or go home.
Yeah.
Well, we
exactly.
live out in the sticks because of that. I'm kind of an isolationist too, in the fact that when it's time for me to be on, I'm on. But when it's time for me, when I need a breather, I go as far away from people as I can. I guess I grew up southern Arizona, you know, just outside of an Indian reservation, an Apache Indian reservation, and I'm a quarter Apache myself. So, you know, my wife gets terrified on my birthday when I'm literally out in the back hills running around with all the coyotes, you know, and she's just like, "You're gonna get rabies," you know, and I'm like, "No, I need," you know, it's kind of how I etch a sketch, you know, it's my new year, you know, it's like I go out and sit on a hillside for a day and a half and just, you know, stay away from people, you know, and it just, you know, and then I'm ready to attack my year. That's coming up, actually. I got about, what is it, the 5th? Yeah, 23rd. So I'll be running up the back of the hillside, and, you know, rolling around in the dirt with the coyotes here in about a half a month.
Oh my God, an old Mowgli! Holy crap!
Yeah, an old fat Mowgli. like
Jungle Book 3: The story of how Mowgli got fat.
Like, who is that? Who is that? It's like, see, I used to joke with people too. That old picture of Bigfoot.
Yeah,
that's not Bigfoot. That's my dad on a camping trip. He got caught skinny dipping.
Oh man! All right. Well, it's been fun chatting with Brian. We're going to chat with him some more stuff you people won't be able to hear because we're going to try to bribe him. For now, for Geekcast Radio, I have been TFG and Mike with
Steve Megatron Phillips.
And of course, our guest, what the hell is a guest? Our guest has been Mr. Brian T. Stevenson. Give the people a voice to close the show out on.
Hey, thank you very much for listening. And hey, don't park next to my car, or I'll key your stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, he went with the New York accent. Holy crap! We will catch you next time. Unleash the geek in you.
Epic fail.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, robots in disguise. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Flawless ensemble.
Oh, no, wait a minute. This is where it gets really good.
If you want to hear the rest of that story, tune into Transformers Prime Time, coming soon from the Geekcast Radio Network. We have no idea when, but in the future, Transformers Prime Time.
We Decepticons now face our darkest hour.